through Karura Forest today, with its lush canopy and wildlife-rich trails, it's hard to imagine that this urban sanctuary was once a battleground where environmental activists risked their lives to prevent its destruction. Yet, this 1,000-hectare forest in the heart of Nairobi stands as a powerful testament to what happens when ordinary citizens rise up to protect their natural heritage. This remarkable transformation didn't happen by accident. It was born from the blood, sweat, and determination of Kenya's most famous environmental activist, Professor Wangari Maathai, and the countless citizens who followed in her footsteps. Do you hear that? The peaceful sound of nature. Water on one side, birds in the trees, the sun barely touching the ground even though it's just about midday. Welcome to Karura Forest. That is where Earthwise is this week, and we tell you why forest conservation is so critical to the survival of the human race. In January 1999, Maathai led a group of activists into Karura Forest to plant trees in protest against government plans to allocate parts of the public forest to private developers for luxury housing. The peaceful protesters were met with violence. Hired thugs brutally beat them, including Maathai herself, who was hospitalized. The police refused to intervene. Instead of being silenced, the attack galvanized international support. The United Nations Environment Programme warned it might relocate its headquarters from Kenya if the forest faced destruction. Students from the University of Nairobi held demonstrations, and UN Secretary General at the time, Kofi Annan, condemned the attack. Maathai's Greenbelt movement ultimately prevailed, and in 2005, Kenya passed the Forest Act, which provided for establishment of community forest associations for each forest in Kenya. This landmark legislation laid the groundwork for what would become one of Africa's most celebrated forest conservation success stories.
Nimegrow nikionanga forest, and imetusaidia sana as a community juu imetupea kazi. Like before watu walikuwa na damage, but sahi tumeona uzuri wa kukua karibu na forest. Juu venye nimegrow karibu na forest, sahi venye nafanya huku kazi najua miti kadhaa, and siwezi kuja niharibu miti. Alafu nikiona mtu akiharibu miti, nitamwambia asiharibu juu inatusaidia kwa vitu mob. Karura Forest inasaidia watu sana. Like for now, kazi yetu imetupea kazi sisi watu tumetoka mji wa Huruma. Tungekuwa jobless. Lakini sasa iko na scouts, alafu kuna sisi casual workers. Tunafanya kazi ya kuchimba mashimo, kupanda miti, and kutengenezea miti, kuipea maji. Yeah, Karura Forest imetusaidia.
From our hearts we are appealing to you, let us love our environment. Because if we do that, let us have a passion, because environment is our life. You've seen how climate change can affect many things. So be part of it. Issues to do with tree growing and all that, ni wajibu wa kila mtu. So take advantage. We are on the rainy season. Make sure it's not just being pushed. Make sure you have a passion. Everybody, doesn't matter whatever the space you have, you can always get some trees that you can be able to plant. Across the country, Kenya Forest Service have enough personnel who are technically qualified to help you, give you the support so that you can be able to choose the right tree for your place. There is always a tree for where you are.
In 2022, Kenya launched a very ambitious program to plant 15 billion tree seedlings across the country in order to improve the forest cover up to at least 30% of the country's total tree population. This is a project that has been criticized by a lot because what is the possibility of planting 15 billion? But then the government has insisted that in order to make that happen, you too have to plant trees. And so today at Karura Forest, the group you see behind me here is about to plant 3,500 tree seedlings in the parts of the forest that had been cut. And the parts of the forest that were cut was to remove the eucalyptus tree species that stood in those places and replace them with indigenous trees. So the 3,500 seedlings that will be planted today are all indigenous tree species. Come with us as we plant one.
And then we have the Kenya Institute of Primate Research, a very important partner.
Karura Forest has a very rich history, which goes back all the way before the Europeans came to Kenya. Before colonization, this was an indigenous, 100% indigenous forest. But when the Europeans came here, they needed a fast-growing tree for purposes of getting steam for the steam engines. So that is how now they started plantations in the Karura Forest. Now, you know the history of the struggle of this forest, how it was almost grabbed in the late 1980s, 90s, and how Wangari Maathai fought it. Yes. And her vision, and that is now our vision as Friends of Karura, is that we must turn this into a 100% indigenous forest. And why do we say so? If you look at an eucalyptus tree, a eucalyptus tree is a very selfish tree. There is no life around the eucalyptus tree, and you go around, you see for yourself. It just grows by itself. There is no other growth. You're not seeing the birds. You're not going to see any monkeys on top. So the idea here is that the moment now you have...
But it smells really nice though.
Yeah, it looks nice, and it looks nice. It's good for timber, it's good for firewood. But for an ecosystem like Karura Forest, remember here we have monkeys, we have birds, we have butterflies, we have so many animals here.
Yes.
Oh
yeah, the little animals that look like antelopes.
Yes, you know those little envelopes. Look, just look like here. You see that an antelope or those small dick-dicks, they have something to eat. If we take a walk where you have the eucalyptus and the pine, there is zero underground. So the idea is that we want to make this one an ecosystem. So, but progress, and we have a management plan. We are not just cutting trees. You know, it appears like we are just cutting trees. We have a management plan, which was discussed. There was public participation. That plan is a five-year plan. And the idea is that you cannot cut. Now the forest is about 65 to 70% indigenous. So we still have about 30% exotic. But you cannot cut 30% at a go.
How much land is that 30%?
The whole of Karura Forest is 1,060 something hectares. So you see 30% is still a very huge portion of 1,000 hectares. So you cannot cut 30%. So the idea is that every year we cut about 5 hectares every year. And this was happening from 2010 up to 2018. Remember when there was the logging ban? So we had to stop. Now the moratorium was lifted this year.
So you picked it up.
So now we have picked it up.
And why do you think that Kenyans are super pissed off about this?
Now,
is it that you failed to communicate something, or what happened?
Personally, first of all, on a positive side, I am very happy myself that Kenyans are raising issues because it means they value Karura Forest. Yes. So that is a positive thing. But as Friends of Karura, we are actually not annoyed that Kenyans are raising concern because they should do. Now, we tried, and if you go to everybody who comes to the forest, There are posters all over on the restoration program, on our Facebook, on our social media platforms. We have tried to educate Kenyans. Probably the news have not yet reached the Kenyans, and I'm happy that we are having this conversation because we want everybody to understand the Karura story. We want everyone to understand the restoration story. That this is not about logging. This is not about harvesting. This is about restoring Karura to what it was before colonialism.
Kenya's forests, which currently cover about 7% of the country's land area, are critical for the nation's survival in ways many Kenyans are only beginning to understand. Karura Forest spans 1,000 hectares, contains 200 bird species, 30 mammal species, 25 reptile species, and 150 butterfly species. It stores approximately 250,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, with 70% stored in trees, 25% in the soil, and 5% understory vegetation. The forest composition includes 50% indigenous trees, 35% exotic plantation, 10% grassland shrubs, and 5% wetlands.
So here we see the difference between an indigenous forest and an exotic forest. Look at the pines. Admittedly, very beautiful.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool and very beautiful. But in terms of life, you can see, we can start from the underground. No undergrowth. Then even when you look up here, you can't even see no birds, no butterflies, no monkeys. So this is why we say an exotic forest is a dead forest. And for Karura Forest, we want to be a forest that is a mixed ecosystem, where you have the butterflies, the animals, the worms, everything living together. So that's why all of us, we should support the restoration of Karura Forest so that we make it 100% indigenous.
These particular trees, where are they indigenous from?
Scandinavia.
The Scandinavian trees. So in Scandinavian, do they support undergrowth, or the way they're behaving down here is how they behave in the Scandinavian countries?
They behave in the same way. But as we were told, there's for the colobus, not the colobus, the polar bears. Yeah, they're the ones that they can actually climb on top of these things.
Okay, polar bears can climb. Okay. So how soon do you think we get to this part of the forest to restore?
Well, it's still some time because, as I said, we have 30% to cover. And we look at the acreage, 30% of 1,000 hectares, that's quite a huge, yeah. So, in my view, this should take, even in the next 10 years, we will still be doing it. Yeah, because it's a very progressive program.
So, as an individual, if I plant a tree and I see nothing growing under it, I should be worried?
You should be worried, because it's not supporting the ecosystem.
The consequences of forest destruction across the country are already evident. Since Kenya's independence in 1963, forest cover has dropped from 10% to about 7%, with the country losing approximately 12,000 hectares annually. According to the Global Forest Watch, Kenya lost 50,700 hectares of humid primary forest between 2002 and 2022, accounting for 14% of the country's total tree cover loss during that period. Today, the Friends of Karura, who are the custodians of Karura Forest, are hosting a tree planting activity, and they showed us around the forest to understand why some parts of it are being cleared.
If you can see the way we are cutting the trees, we are only removing the exotic, the eucalyptus. It is not a clear fell. A clear fell is where you come and you cut everything. So here we are just removing the eucalyptus, but saving the indigenous trees. So that is the idea, that don't cut everything. So it is selective cutting. You only cut the eucalyptus, but
only the tree you don't want.
The tree you don't want, but try as much as possible to save the indigenous.
Okay. Yes. So you'll come back and remove the stumps later?
Yes.
Well,
No.
Okay.
What they do, actually, you don't remove them, and you cannot apply chemicals.
By continuously removing these coppices, this tree stump will eventually die, as we continue weeding for the young seedling that we are going to plant here, we also remove this. This gives, you don't give this tree stump a chance to continue growing.
Across Kenya, communities are increasingly taking the lead in forest protection, recognizing that their survival depends on healthy ecosystems. The Kenya Forest Service has taken notice of this success, particularly because government-led reforestation initiatives typically have only a 50% survival rate. The difference? Community ownership and participation.
At the moment, there are over 70,000 visitors who come here for various reasons. There are people who come for forest bathing. There are those people.
What does that mean, forest bathing? To
Forest,
just look at the trees?
Forest bathing is a system which is used where when you're in the forest, you are in an environment full of oxygen. So that environment helps you to detoxificate your body.
So you do deep breaths.
Deep breath. That is bathing.
Okay.
You're being bathed with oxygen.
Okay.
Yes. So basically, we'll find other people. They come riding and others for their mental health, to relax and watch birds and experience that serenity. So I would say restoration of forest is a process, people should be patient so that the professions can be able to do that. Because we are also as concerned. We love forests, and that is even why we had a passion to go to school for all those years and to do forest.
Oh, you all studied forestry?
We studied forestry. Yes.
Okay, so now that you've mentioned that you went to school, you had a passion, you went to school and you studied forestry, and now you're a guardian of the forest, you're a protector of the forest. Tell me a little bit about what that is like, being a guardian of a forest. What's that like?
It is a big responsibility because to make people see the passion, instead of looking at politics and all those things. We look at the environment and how we want to restore it, how the goods that the environmental services are giving us. So basically, people should be able, just the same way they are lawyers who follow law, they should also give those people who practice forestry a chance to support and support what they went to school to do.
But what is it like being a guardian of the forest, like for you at an individual level?
It is very satisfying because basically even yourself, even beside being employed, you need forests. I love birds. I want that peace. All those benefits that we want to create for other people. We, first and foremost, we need them ourselves. So we feel that you are doing something. You know, we hear during the creation, all these things came. And we are part and parcel of recreating what God had created.
Do you think that maybe it's time to start conversations to have these educations about environmental protection start at the very basic level of education all the way as a child develops and learns about it?
Yes, and that is why as we commemorate the International Day of Forest today, that is where we find very young children from primary schools, high school, so that we can start inculcating that issues of the importance of trees to our life. So it is very important. Everybody should know.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we are about to plant a tree. Which one is this? It looks like one in my village.
This is
we call
macamia.
Olusiola.
This is macamia.
That's it, right? Yeah, in my language you call it Olusiola.
In Kikuyu they call it mo.
Mo.
M-double-O. Yes, M-W-U.
W. Oh, okay.
Mo, with a cast apostrophe.
Okay, so let me see if I remember. You said you massage it first?
Yeah, you massage it. Okay. So that...
I'm not strong enough. I'm not strong. Okay.
We are massaging like this so that we can be able to remove this paper.
Okay, without
this was just helping in nurturing this tree.
Okay.
But when now we want to put it to its natural nature, so that the roots can now find their way. Here they were a bit contained, and that is why once we remove this paper, it goes to the ground. It will even grow faster. Okay. And also because of conservation, we want to reuse this.
Reuse the bag.
Reuse the bag.
Okay.
Now you can see the roots.
Yes.
So once this tree, this is enough for food for now, but once we release it, it will have food forever. That is where you put it on the ground. You make sure that it is it is upright, and if you're putting soil, you make sure that the soil goes all the way around nicely.
So there's no need to gonga kutoa hiyo mchanga imeshikilia.
No, you don't do that because you might disturb the root system.
Okay.
Because it will once it is watered, the roots will be able to find themselves their way up. Once you do that, it is important to make sure that it is firmly put on the ground. Yeah.
So unasindilia udongo kabisa.
Unasindilia vizuri.
Okay.
Unamwaga maji.
Studies show that Karura Forest provides measurable urban benefits. Temperatures inside the forest are up to 8 degrees cooler than in Nairobi's city center. Properties adjacent to the forest command a 20% premium in value. The forest purifies an estimated 2.5 million cubic meters of water annually, prevents floods that would cost approximately $3.8 million in damages, and facilitates 1.7 million cubic meters of groundwater recharge. Historical threat assessment shows that while security concerns in Karura Forest have dropped from a level 9 out of 10 in 1990 to just 1 in 2025, challenges remain. Encroachment and illegal logging have decreased from level 7 to 8 to level 2, and pollution from level 6 to level 2. These improvements came through community vigilance, legal protection, and public awareness. In July 2024, President William Ruto lifted a 5-year ban on logging, disappointing conservationists who had seen him as a champion of environmental causes. This decision came despite his ambitious climate agenda, which includes planting 15 billion trees. The project aims to increase Kenya's forest cover from 7% to 30%, and as of May 2025, approximately 1 billion trees have been planted nationwide, with a survival rate of 62%. The guardians of Kenya's forests, from organized community forest associations to individual tree planters, are carrying forward Maathai's vision, proving that environmental protection and community well-being can go hand in hand. Their work offers hope that Kenya can reverse decades of forest loss and create a greener, more sustainable future. Would you like to interact with us? Earthwise would love to hear from you.